Morning, everyone. Jeremy Giffen with the Deschutes Basin Watermaster's office. This picture here was about a month ago, and one of the best tools the Watermaster's office has for seeing how the upcoming water year is going to look is when we drive that snowcat around around Wickiup and Crane Prairie in the wintertime, serving our stream gauging stations. This is our Cultus Creek gauge, which flows right into Crane Prairie Reservoir, and from the roof there you can see about 3 feet of snow on top. I've been driving that loop up there for about 30 years, and this is the third most amount of snow I've seen up in that area. So definitely a good sign. We got a lot of good coverage up there. Right after this picture was shot on December 31st, though, if you remember, January didn't snow or rain at all. So we had a really ugly January, but we're back in it again. We're starting to get some more snowpack going, and hopefully that trend continues. This is the teacup diagram, what us water managers use for the Deschutes Basin to see where we're at. Crane Prairie, of course, full. We operate that for the Oregon spotted frog and keep it artificially full now. Wickiup Reservoir, 69% full the other day. I expect that to go up, plus or minus, don't hold me to it, about 170,000 acre feet, or about 85% full. Crescent Lake, still sitting at the bottom. That stores just over 86,000 acre feet for the Tumalo Irrigation District. I don't expect that to make much headroom, but it will be its best year in probably 7 or 8 years.
Jeremy, tell us why Crescent is always so low. What's the problem?
The reason why, I'm glad you asked, Crescent is so low is that Crescent Lake was built in 1922 over a natural lake, a huge natural lake. They added a dam onto it. They were too aggressive with what they wanted to store. 86,000 acre foot for a storage area that's very small. It takes 10, 11, 12 really wet years to fill that thing up. It's been about 20 years since we've seen it up near the top. But now because of the spotted frog requirements of wintertime releases of 10 CFS, we likely aren't going to see that fill anymore unless we have just gangbuster water years several years in a row. And still, I think we'll probably only fill about halfway up, to the dismay of the cabin owners around the lake, obviously. Prineville Reservoir over there, we could have filled that thing already this year. We've been in flood operations last month. Flows coming out of that thing upwards of 1,800 CFS. And with the snowpack out in the Crooked River Basin, I would say no problems filling that reservoir this year. We could probably fill it twice. Here's where we are right now with Wickiup Reservoir. If we were to extend that line up, I would say we're going to end about 170,000 acre feet. The red line there is the average fill. We used to fill it pre-HCP about 7 or 8 out of 10 years. The green line is last year. So finishing at 170,000 acre feet for the start of the irrigation this season will be the best year in 7 years. 2018 was the last time we were up there. So that's definitely good news, especially for North Unit Irrigation District. Here's Prineville Reservoir contents. You can see that bump down there where we stored a bunch of water. We were actually releasing for flood control during that period just to keep it down below what's called the fill curve. This reservoir is authorized for flood control, so we have to keep space in there. So we're constantly dumping the water, but don't worry about it. I do not see a scenario where we dump the water and then we can't fill it. There's enough snowpack in the upper Crooked River Basin that that's going to fill it no matter what. Snowpack in the Pacific Northwest. I come here every year and show this graph, or this picture, and every year I go, boy, it's just missing us to the north. It's just missing us to the south, back and forth. Good news this year, it's hitting right on us. So we're on the northern edge of it. All the dark blues there coming out from the southwest to the northeast. Have brought up our snowpack very good. We're at 117% average right now. We were much higher at the end of the year until we got that 30 days of nothing that we just went through. And here's the precipitation, which would be the rain and snow mixed together. And again, above average, good news. And again, our neighbors just immediately to the south of us are doing very well this year. And I expect we will as well. Snowpack in the upper Deschutes. This is grabbing the NRCS gauges that contribute to Wickiup and Crane Prairie Reservoir here in the Deschutes. You can see that large rise there at the beginning or at the end of the year, right here. And then you can see we flatlined through January. It was scary. A lot of people were calling me saying, we're out of the woods. And I go, if Mother Nature keeps this coming. And it was scary, 30 days of no precipitation. But that little bump there shows we're back in it. The green line that you can see in the middle, that's average. So we've been able to stay above average this whole water year. My predecessor, the watermaster in the Deschutes from 1920 to 1960, Aubrey Perry, used to, he had to snowshoe into these snow-till sites back in the day, but he used to say if we have 30 inches at the summit snow-till site, 30 inches of precipitation in the snow, we're going to have a good water year. We've tested that every year since 1960, and that comes to be true. As of today, we're at 27 inches. I see no problems passing the 30-inch mark. So I think we're out of the woods for this winter, but we still want the snow and precipitation to continue. Here's the precipitation, overall precipitation for the upper Deschutes. Obviously, the snowpack's doing better than the overall precipitation, meaning most of the precipitation that has fallen in the way of snow. Here's the snowpack in the Crooked, and you can see a little area there. We were in record territory around the first of the year. So great snowpack out there. It's adding up. A lot of these storms have been happening just to the east of us, and those snow-till sites are looking very good this year. Overall precipitation, again, 130%, still great news. No problem filling the reservoirs out there. Here's the projections moving forward. It could go in any direction. We don't know what Mother Nature's going to do, but if things hold steady the way they are, we're looking for the upper Deschutes, 110 to 120% of normal. I think there was 9 out of 10 years I was here talking in a row out of bad news of how bad it was looking, but we're looking really good, and we're starting to see this in the aquifer. Upper Crooked River, 130 to 150%. Again, expect to see really high flows going through Prineville. We're in great shape. I do not see any problems with water coming out of that. We should fill, no problem. I showed this this graph I put together a couple of years ago, and this is the difference between a good year and a bad year in terms of a water year. When we have a really good water year, like in 1999, the Little Deschutes River puts out so much extra from the melting snow, an additional 100,000 acre-foot. That's half of Wickiup when it's full. So the natural flow is what's key in this basin. When we have low natural flow like we have for about 10 years now, that makes us rely on the stored water way more, and that's why we have one of the reasons why we have an empty Wickiup Reservoir all the time. So we're really hoping this year we're going to see a bounce in the natural flow. The natural flow of the Deschutes River historically in Bend was about 1,400 cubic feet per second. The last couple years we've been measuring that at about 1,000 cubic feet per second. We're missing about a third of our water because of years of prolonged drought. And that means these springs that we've relied on all these years are putting out a lot less water. But we've been above average on snowpack for 2 to 3 years now, and we're starting to see a turnaround. I put a couple graphs up here. One is Fall River. That shows since 1937. And that's a good indicator. Nobody takes water out of Fall River. This is up where it comes right out of the ground. Good indication of what the groundwater system does in the upper Deschutes. And you can see it's been on a slow, steady decline, since about the 40s or 50s. Our other gauge, Deschutes River below Snow Creek, again, spring-fed, flows into Crane Prairie Reservoir. Same kind of story. Aquifer indicator that I have there. That's an observation well we have. And the snowpack down below, you can see all three of those graphs kind of trending together. And what I want you to see is about 2022, we hit our low point. That was the lowest natural flow we have ever seen in this coming out of this aquifer. We were under 1,000 cubic feet per second in Bend from the Deschutes River. Coupled that with the HCP and the reliance on the stored water, that's what caused us all those problems. So I think if you read those graphs the same way I do, we're starting to pull out of it. All three of those are showing an upswing. Definitely good news. This is my talk last year. Look at that big, what we call the blob, the moderate drought. We were stuck with drought. It was red before, now it's brown, but we were stuck with drought conditions up and down throughout all of District 11, Jefferson, Deschutes, Crook counties. And the good news is that's where we're looking right now. And I haven't seen a map like that in a lot of years, so definitely good news. Any questions? Wow.
Thank you, Jeremy. Morning, everyone. My name is Josh Bailey, General Manager for North Unit Irrigation District. Before I get going on my presentation, just wanted to mention a few things. Number one, so for the past month and a half, 2 months, North Unit has been looking for an assistant manager. That position is still open. So if anyone wants a cush job where you just sit around and wait for the phone to ring, go ahead and put an app in. I'm being facetious, you guys know that. We need someone that's got some thick skin and willing to get in there and do what it takes to keep the lights on here for folks in Jefferson County. So if you don't know anyone, please refer them to our website. That would be most appreciative. Ideally, we'd like to fill that position by the beginning of water season. Okay? So any questions, call the office or take a look at the website. So if we have a couple questions during the presentation, feel free to ask them. This is not like a town hall. You know, we've got kind of short amount of time here, and Craig Harrell is gracious enough to join us from the DVBC and COID. So I'm going to do a little bit. Craig's going to come up and do a little bit, and then we'll get the bulk of the Q&A towards the tail end. So, okay? All right, here we go. Okay, so I'm just highlighting some of the bigger projects that we have going on right now. For a complete list, again, go to the North Unit website and search the NUID project matrix. That'll give you a full list of all the projects we have going on. Right now we've got in the vicinity between 14 and 18 different projects, and these all range in size from $40 million pipeline projects all the way down to $5,000 video projects. So just highlighting some of the bigger ones right now. We got a segment 2 of our lateral 43 pipeline project, surplus water ordering program, canal lining project, fish screen replacement project, Lake Willie pumping plant, and then again, for a full list of projects, visit the NUID website and review the latest project matrix. Okay, so I'm sure everyone, as they are, so everyone, as you're driving south on Highway 97, you've seen the big mountains of dirt up there just past Highland. So that is the construction of what we call segment 2 of our lateral 43 pipeline project. And for those of you here during the town hall last year, this will be a little repetitive, but these are the pipe lengths and diameters that are currently being installed. As you know, they had to cross the highway. They finished that up. So right now we have a 78-inch sleeve that's permanently installed underneath Highway 97. And then as they continue to weld the 63-inch pipe together, they'll pull that through that sleeve and they'll continue on. And we've got maps over at the booth. Feel free to link up with Colin or Crystal or Dennis if you have any questions about the project for this year's project. Couple things, big picture. So this is a 4-phase project. Last year we did phase 1. This year we're doing phase 2. We will not be going to construction this winter. And the reason why is we need to finish the design and engineering on phases 3 and 4. And then in addition to that, we need to finalize some of the funding from federal sources and state sources and get that all locked in. So right now the plan, we're going to take this winter off for this piping project. We're going to be finishing up design and engineering, like I said, and then getting the funding put together. And then next summer, ideally go out to bid, and then whatever contractor wins the bid, we want to give them the phases 3 and 4, and then it'll be up to the contractor to decide on how they want to get that work done, but it'll be a 2-year process. So right now, go back to construction again. 2026, and be constructing 26, 27. Projects should be done around April, May timeframe of 2028. Okay, any questions on that? Oh, so a couple things. So Gary Calhoun and Dennis Kruger, for those that are irrigate off of segments 3 and 4, we're going to be contacting you. We need to talk about deliveries and where deliveries are going to go, how the irrigation system is going to work, and we're going to be trying to get ahead of it this year. So expect a call. We appreciate your cooperation coming into the office and sitting down with those guys to get this. We want to get it right now so we don't have issues when we're going through construction saying we want our delivery moved 20 feet down the way after it's already been installed or something along those lines, okay?
What percentage of the district do you think that project is? Have you ever compared the percentage of land versus the whole district?
As far as how much is piped, you
How
mean?
is it going to get to 43 versus done?
Oh, how much 43 is? That is a good question. I don't know, but if I were to take a semi-educated guess, I'd say probably. Actually, what would you say, Gary?
7,800 acres.
It's 7,800 acres.
Okay, good.
Okay, so just a bit over 12%. Thanks, Gary. Okay, something new. I talked about this in the newsletter last year. I talked a little bit about the end of season town hall. So we have, as you know, we operate completely different than we have for 70 years now, and that is due to the HCP. We have certain HCP requirements we have to meet for its flows on the Upper Deschutes River. So case in point, by April 1st, we need to be at either 400 CFS or 600 CFS coming out of Wickiup. And then from, I think it's July 15th, or July 1st to September 15th, we have to be at 1,300 CFS at a measuring site called Benham Falls. And so what that does is when we have wet weather events come through during the irrigation season, we will use that water that's available, we'll fill up haystack, and then oftentimes we can't reduce our outflows out of Wickiup, and we can't necessarily put that water that water on farm, but we want to. And this was kind of a board directive. Last year, the board said we need to figure out a way to be able to utilize this water and put it on farm so it doesn't affect patrons' allotments. So as you know, last year was the 6th year of sub 2 foot allotments, and if the allotment is under 2 foot this year, that's going to be the 7th year of subpar allotment. So what we've done is we have modified our online water ordering system. We call it the portal. We've modified that so when there are times when we would potentially bypass water, what we'll do is we'll notify all the patrons that we have a surplus water event, and we'll put out there it's going to be potentially available for a week or two, and then we will make a modification to the portal where folks can go on and they can order that water for their farms, but it's not going to count against your allotment. So the program is up and active. Colin is working on a training video and some simple PDFs that you guys can follow to kind of go through. It's pretty simple. You'll log on to the portal. There'll be a box there. It'll say surplus water. You're going to check. There are some stipulations, and there is if you go to the NUID website, there is a draft resolution. It's called 2024 Pilot, and that's going to give you the details. If you're farming over 500 acres, there's going to be a limit, a cap on how much water that you can order. And it's going to be based on available water and the quantity and a lot of different factors that are going to go into it. So we would appreciate your patience as we roll this out. As you remember, in the past couple years, we've experimented with different ways. We've called them free water days, and some of those didn't work out so well, and some did. So this is the new path going forward. And like I said, please be patient as we work out the kinks. And we expect this to be available. Usually it's going to be available in the spring, and then sometimes in the fall. We don't anticipate, the summer a whole lot. Okay? Questions?
Is that only accessible through the portal, or can those of us that call in water orders access it?
So the politically correct answer is no, it's open to everyone. The internal North Unit answer is yes. We want everyone to go on the portal. It makes it helps staff focus on a lot of other projects instead of taking gobs and gobs and gobs of calls. But if you are unable to or reluctant to set up an account on the portal, yes, you can call the office and continue ordering like normal. But we highly, highly, highly encourage you to open up an account and get with the times. Come on, this is 2024. Get rid of your flip phone, get a smartphone.
You guys need to train somebody in your office how to get work on these phones. Because the guy like me goes in there and doesn't know shit about them. They don't even know how to program. You've got to get somebody there that's trained on iPhone, every phone there is out there.
You need to talk to Colin. Colin, raise your hand. Come on, raise your hand, Colin. Colin is, he's forgot more tech stuff than I'll ever know. So if you have a tech question, Colin's your guy, okay? All right, we got to keep moving on.
So this only is going to be notified what? On the cell phone? Is that how you get to know? How are you going to know when it's there?
So we're going to send out a blanket email and then probably do a robocall. So this is North Unit, one of those calls. Okay? All right, so for the sake of time, I need to keep moving here. So the other project, we've talked a lot about this. We've been held up with funding, is we want to line about a mile and a half section of our main canal around Juniper Butte. We had a log jam with the funding. We finally got that cleared up. However, that didn't get cleared up until December timeframe of this year. We didn't have enough time to do it this year, so we're planning on doing it next year when we shut down. Okay, another big project. And my predecessor, Mike Britton, he's been working on this project for well over 10 years. And we finally got all the funding put together. It's about a $10 million project to replace our fish screens in Bend. So we received a $5.88 million grant from Reclamation, another $750,000 from ODF&W, $1 million from OWEB, $2 million from OWRD, and we hope to start construction this fall. And we don't know if it's going to be a 1 or 2 year project, but right now we're planning for a 2-year project. So it's not really going to affect you guys, but it's going to help us internally significantly. These screens are over 80 years old. And we, last year, we had multiple different issues where we had to shut one down. We had to work on it. Actually, this year we've had to completely rebuild the hub on one of them to keep them going. They've served faithfully and done a great job for all those seasons, and now it's time to move on to bigger, better things for those fish screens. So, okay, Lake Billy Chinook Pumping Plant. We've been talking a lot about this over the past number of years. We've completed the appraisal study that was finished up last spring, and right now we're finalizing the funding agreements and the plan for Reclamation to do a what they call a feasibility analysis. The great thing about this is unless something changes that we don't know, this project will be funded by Reclamation, which is great, and it's looking to be about a $5.8 million study that's going to be taking place over the next couple years. And this is going to drill down a little bit more on the exact costs of power, the environmental compliance, look at some of the other alternate options, those kind of things. So this project is continuing to move forward, and we'll keep you updated as we can. And that's it. Again, really, really short and sweet this year. We got a lot more going on, and but for sake of time, wanted to pass it off to Craig Correll.
Which way is it? Good morning. My name is Craig Correll. I'm the general manager for Central Oregon Irrigation District. This is my 11th year. I think I've come up here. I know quite a few of you here. Besides being the manager of COID, I'm the president of the Deschutes Basin Board of Control. Some of you are familiar with that. What is that? We, as the 8 districts in the Deschutes Basin, formed the Deschutes Basin Board of Control to protect 150,000 acres of irrigated ag, 7,600 patrons. And what do we do that for? We go get funding. We do federal legislation. We do state legislation. We work as a group together as all irrigation districts as one. Now, it doesn't mean we're one irrigation district, but we partner to get this stuff done. And when we go to Washington, D.C., which Josh and I will be there in April, we protect things that we have, like our funding. I did hand Josh a big check today for the piping, and it's not shut off. Funding's still coming in. We do have to protect some funding that we know we have that affects some projects coming up. But that's what we do as the DBBC. We also do permits, like the Habitat Conservation Permit, which we started in 2000, I think 15 was when we really got into it, but 2014 to 2018, the spotted frog came. It wasn't the frog at first, it was to look at fish species, but the boards of all the districts combined decided we needed to get a habitat conservation plan. Now, I know that everybody has opinions whether that was a good plan to do or a bad plan to do, but what I can say that in the Trump administration, this was signed in 2020. And we worked to get the best that we could. We're still opportunistic. If anything changes with new administrations, we're always looking to get a better deal. However, that has allowed in drought years for COID to be able to deliver water to North Unit. We have worked with OWRD at COID because we are a big partner to North Unit on how our conserved water projects help North Unit bridge the gap from releasing water for the frog to having a more secured source of water. So the HCP covers our basin, which is 350 miles of river streams, 150,000 acres of irrigated ag, so that everybody that has a water right in the Deschutes Basin is covered. What I'm really here as is a partner to North Unit. This started well before I got here, but you know, North Unit and COID have never really been on the same page. I guess I look at Marty Richards and I kind of laugh, but Marty was there when I started my first day. We entered into an agreement to be partners, North Unit and COID, and that means we are doing projects to help North Unit be more efficient, worry about how we bridge the gap in drought years, and I think it's working really well. We've gotten a lot of funding coming to this basin. COID has secured $66 million. It could be 79. There's about 20-some million on the table that we're fighting for today that was IRA money. IRA money was the money that got pulled back and is being reviewed, I guess is the best way to say it. These projects all depend on an environmental impact statement that COID has been working on for 4 years. We just submitted it to NRCS and it's in a 30-day review. What does that mean? With all of the federal issues going on with staff getting buyouts and all these things, 30 days now will be more like maybe 180 days. So why is that important? COID, this is basically every permit that I need to receive this federal funding. And the minute that we get this approved, this EIS approved, which we're hopeful it's in the fall, I think it could be delayed a little bit, but we can start bringing all this money in. These projects are significant in that what have we done to help North Unit? Just the first project alone in a drought year, I kind of calculated, Josh, this is about 9,000 acre feet is 0.025 added to your allotment. We know that we can, through COID piping, get you about 80,000 acre feet. And that is secured first-in-time water. 80,000 acre feet is a lot of water to have in a drought year. I think that would have been about 2.5 allotment, something like that. So we are doing this with all the districts have projects. We have over 200 CFS of projects, which equates to 80 to 100,000 acre feet. So we're all working on these projects. This is just the overview of it. We have a lot of things that we've done with the state to make sure we can move this water from COID to North Unit and deliver it, be accounted for. We've done all of the work, and now it's just get the projects in the ground, and that's where we're at. 11 years ago, everybody said this would never happen. We have funding. The funding that we have right now, tariffs also are an issue because 25% tariff from Canada and tariffs from Mexico do affect steel and HD plastic pricing. So if it is 25%, our project gets shrunk 25%. But with 79 million, we should meet the HCP first hurdle requirement in the HCP, no problem. And I couldn't have said that 10 years ago. We were just winging a prayer 10 years ago. So Bridget's not here, so I'd say we may have to ask for an extra year just because it's tough to get through these permitting processes. What was that?
Can I piggyback on that?
Yeah.
So just talking about the water that's being generated, on January 22nd, we submitted an application to the state for 24,000 acre feet of conserved water that North Unit will receive starting, just not all of it, but a chunk of it next irrigation season as senior water. So all the other districts in the basin have signed a forbearance agreement that they're going to allow that conserved water to come to North Unit during the summertime, and then we in turn will be releasing that. So just highlighting on what Craig was saying about the water, it is happening, and like I said, we've already potentially reached 24,000 acre feet. So.
Yeah, and you know, we've driven Jeremy nuts for the last, I don't know, 5-10 years on, he calls it coloring the water. We actually have documentation now that shows how we count the water. It is conserved water. It is water that's been conserved so it does not hurt COID patrons. So while you guys are saying, where's the water from COID, my patrons are saying, don't give our water away to North Unit. So, you know, it's a balance, right? So we protect our senior water right users in COID. At the same time, we can modernize our district. So what's the win-win is we modernize, you benefit here at North Unit. This is the first year I've been here doing this talk that says I am 100% confident that this is meeting water law. It is not a pilot anymore. We've done a $35 million project that shows we know how to move water, and it's happening. So be patient. One thing I'll ask North Unit farmers is I do have my district in Bend. When I do a piping project in the city of Bend, it tends to ruffle feathers a little bit on water features in backyards. In the EIS process, I do have a public meeting that I'll have to do probably in August or September, and it would be nice to have support saying why we're piping these. It isn't that we want to ruin your water feature, your house price. We do want to make sure that the farmers and ranchers are getting the water, and we're conserving that. So, yes?
So, explain to us the Helms Owens water package. What do you see that's gonna do?
There's a lot of things in there that I like, and there's a lot of things that I don't like as a COID manager. What I like is our partners, the Deschutes River Conservancy, has the ability to do pilots. Like if my farmers, instead of doing in-stream leasing, we can maybe do projects on farm that actually generate a pool of water that they can then deliver to North Unit instead of in-stream leasing. Having some of that legislation spelled out so we can do those projects to move water between districts. Right now, I can say, I can move this chunk of water in COID on the Central Oregon Canal to another farmer on the Central Oregon Canal. I can't take that chunk of water and move it to your farm. So some of the legislation we're talking about is pilots to be able to test those out and see if it works. The worry is looking at it as we're expanding our districts. Like if I'm giving too much water, we have environmentalists that say that's expansion of districts. So there's things that we're working on. What I don't like in that bill is telling our patrons at COID, you shall not flood irrigate. You shall do X. Shall is a good way to have anybody say, get out of my house. So I want it to be incentive-based, and that's what I've been talking to them about. Yes, let's keep some of that language, but let's have it be incentive-based, not shall. Shall makes our people go away, and we don't want that.
So are you guys gonna let the patrons know when it's going to testify?
Yeah.
The package, because things are moving fast.
Yeah, it is moving fast. Yeah, no, we will have our, we have our website, we have our OWRC, our Water Congress that actually helps us on that. Josh and I will probably testify on those, whether it's for or against certain parts of the package, but yeah, we're ready to go.
Karen,
Yes?
spotted frog report, did it ever get released?
No, I don't think it ever publicly got released, but I do know that we, as the Deschutes Basin Board of Control, we hire to do a lot of the studies. So part of our obligation when you see your HCP, I know COID, I'm not sure how North Unit's bill says, but we have an HCP fee. Some of that pays for the scientists to go up and do the studies. We are creating, Craig Prairie is beautiful frog habitat, and it is growing frogs, and so we know that the counts are higher in certain areas, but we don't know about the other offshoots. One of the things I can say as far as what we worry about as districts and operating, we chose through our attorneys to pay a fee to not have to worry about counts. So we, North Unit and COID, pay 90% of that out of the 8 districts, and we have no obligation to care how many frogs there are. We just know we're paying to improve their habitat. If we got into the frog county business, we would be paying a lot more money over time. That's how we viewed it. I don't know if any board members can answer that, but that was the choice we made.
Greg?
Yeah.
Adaptive management, the big hammer that's coming down on us on the winter of 28 when we have to release 300 feet out of quickly. Are we working on trying to amend that now, or just waiting and worrying?
Well, I just hinted, so I'm kind of laying the groundwork. The thing is, if I have federal dollars and I have permits and I am doing the work and I'm held up because of I can't get a permit fast enough or something, I can show that I am meeting the intent and I can't get there because we can only construct, 6 months a year. I need another year. So I've been hinting, a lot because it's taken so long to get this EIS done. You know, we should have been ordering pipe this year and begin putting it in the ground. So we're about a year behind. But we will meet that date, Gary. That's where I'm at. And I had hoped that we'd meet it in the past, but I have a pretty good sense.
One more last question. I've always been critical of.
Me?
No, not you. Your partnership basically with the Deschutes River Conservancy that I support. But the in-stream water leasing program where you're saving your water rights through in-stream leasing in a river that I think is well enough off right now. Is there anything in the legislation that Owens is doing, or are you asking for any law changes to where instead of in-stream leasing to a stream, you can in-stream lease to take those leases to save your water rights and transfer the North Unit on a temporary basis?
This is a hard one to answer because I'm on the DRC executive board.
Right.
So I believe in the DRC and everything that they do. I also know when I was going to school at COCC in the 80s, there was no water going over that dam, or very little in the early 80s. The DRC, through all of their programs, found a way to get water to go over that dam and spent a lot of money from their funders and founders. That ain't free water that was generated over 30 years. So in my DRC hat, it's like these guys worked really hard to meet that in-stream goal, which was the middle. Then the frog came, and you're like, well, we want to take it and move it here. And I understand why. But you're also now hurting the middle to help a farmer. And it's a hard question to answer, but where I'm at is leave it alone from this point on. We've got a plan moving forward to help you. I don't want to touch that middle. And I think if we were looking at not having funding and not having projects, that would be a much harder discussion. And it would have to be on the table, but I don't think it should be on the table with what we have going.
Well, the middle's at 100 CFS now.
Yep.
And the goal is that Tom Troop said in 1984 is 250. And I say, let's hold off on 250 now and help North Unit while there's a drought condition going on.
I would say that is what we're doing without saying it. I mean, Jen's here, she works on all the in-stream leasing for DRC. And it's super valuable to my patrons for beneficial use. We need that program still. And yeah, I don't want to grow, yes, they have a 250. I don't want to grow that until we get this HCP. Our number one responsibility is to meet the HCP today. We're not touching the middle until we meet the HCP. But we also don't want to go backwards on where we've gotten on that. That's my personal opinion.
So, we actually have a little more time here. So if you're going to open it up a little more broader for maybe North Unit specific or DBBC specific, Marty?
Can you, for some of the papers that we're going to do, you guys explain the 80,000 feet that Craig's talking about, conserved water that comes to North Unit, where it's measured, the difference between that and our stored water, and how much more benefit?
Yep, I'll try.
You take the first swing.
All right, this is what we argued with the state yeah, she's laughing right now. Carolyn's laughing at me. Yeah. Your priority date's 1 minute after ours. I don't know. It's the same. So our goal is on the Pilot Butte Canal. It's leaky. We have we believe about 80,000 acre feet or 50 to 80 within. If you say 80, I'm probably combining a little bit of our on-farm with our piping, but piping is the nexus to get to that 80. That will be measured at a delivery point at the end of the COID Pilot Butte Canal. And that delivery point is going to be recognized by the state, I believe. I think it is. We're working on finalizing a memo right now. It's about, I think it's almost there. So we will be delivering water at Smith Rock Way to North Unit. And that 80,000, we have the ability to deliver 200 CFS, which if you follow the season, could be the full 80,000 acre feet over time as we do this. Now, what we have right now is we have a bottleneck, and Josh is gonna have to figure out how, until I get some of this piping completed, it will back out of the canal, because those canals were only, at the end of our system, were only meant to deliver 200, and now we're putting 500 CFS at the ultimate goal. But that is our goal. Some of the other things that we have there is we have opportunity for hydro that we can joint venture between North Unit and COID, because we will have 500 CFS being delivered at the end of the system where we have to take all the pressure out of it. Did I answer that, Marty?
Well, I think I should address this better, because 80,000 feet coming out of Wikia, that's almost a 50% loss by the time it gets on district or gets to bed. And you can take it from there, Josh.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback on what Craig talked about. So we need to look a little bit bigger than just COID and look at the other irrigation districts in the basin. If you look at this graph up here, it talks about other water that is being generated through conservation projects. So you've got Arnold, 32, almost 32.5 CFS. You've got Lone Pine. Obviously COID, because their size and their water right, they're going to be generating the most conserved water. But let's not forget about these other districts. And last year was the first year, at least in my understanding, that every irrigation district in Central Oregon was doing a piping project. This year, not quite everybody is doing a project, but I'd say at least 3/4 are, and which is fantastic. It goes to prove that the plan is working. Yes, it is slow. Yes, there is. I talk to a lot of folks, and I say that we have a sword of Damocles hanging over our head with a clock attached to it for 5 years, and when we have to go to 300, we want to make sure that these conservation projects are done so that we can keep irrigating here. And
I think simply to answer Marty's question, for every drop of CFS that's released in the winter time out of Wikia that you think you're losing, you get that CFS back in the summertime when you need it. That's how we're delivering water. So don't worry when you see the winter rates go up and your reservoir kind of holding steady. The goal is the conserved water that we save, you're getting the exact same amount you released in the winter time.
And we're getting that water as live flow during the summertime, and that's going to replace our reliance on storage. And yes, there are losses.
What I'm trying to get there is that if you release a foot of water out of Wikia, by the time it gets to where it comes in your canal, it's only half.
That's correct.
And if it's 80,000 feet of water rights with the same priority date as Craig, it's 1 foot of water. So it's 50% more water. Does that make sense?
It does. So once the Pilot Butte Canal is fully piped and they divert that water, they have the capacity to be able to deliver 200 CFS to us right at basically mile 23 of our main canal, which means that's going to be, the losses in the upper portion of the canal aren't going to be incurred by North Unit. And so our efficiencies are going to go up substantially once that does happen, yes. Any other questions? Yes, Scotty?
Yeah, Josh, you sort of switched gears here on, with the new, variable state drive and pumps in the Crooked River, and with all the flows going to be in the Crooked River, are you going to start pumping early this year to help supplement what we're going to receive on farm?
Yeah, the question was, are we going to start pumping early with the potential flood releases? So here's the deal, is when flows get above 1,300 CFS down there, well, we actually can't pump. And the reason why is because the water starts to inundate our fish screens. And so out of precaution, we have to pull our fish screens out. And if our fish screens aren't in the water, we can't pump. And so if the flows are going to be below 1,000, there is that potential, but it makes us pretty nervous because when the flows get higher, it starts encroaching on our access road where we get our equipment down there to pull the fish screens out. So to answer your question, we will pump as much as we safely can, but we can't afford to allow that infrastructure to be damaged. And last year, I think we put the screens in and took them out, I think 3 different times before the season even began. And it's quite a laborious process to do that. And we did that because we thought we were in the clear, so let's fire up the pumps. Oh no, here's another rain event. Here's more snow coming down. Okay, let's pull them back out. And so we'll try not to do that same thing, but there is that potential because the Crooked is such a flashy system. I mean, they'll get a big rainstorm and a couple hours later you can look at the gauges on the river and you see them going up. Whereas on the Deschutes, that doesn't happen that way. I'm getting into Jeremy's territory there.